I will say, we can answer that right now. I will say this, guys. I don't care as much about how your foot hits the ground. I care about where it hits the ground, but I don't care if you're heel striking, forefoot striking, a little bit midfoot. I don't want you to run like a ballerina where you're way up on your toes. The forefoot strike, it's a very subtle ball of the foot. The heel kisses the ground and you push back off. You get a little bit more energy return that way. I'm a fan of it. But you can also have an efficient heel strike, which is it's a slight heel strike. You hit, you roll off, and you push off. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem becomes when you overstride and you land way out in front here. That tends to give you a much more aggressive heel strike. I'd rarely cue somebody for this heel strike unless they want to change it, and then we can do that. I cue a lot more of, if we can bring you from here to here, you're typically going to fix that heel strike. If you can't see, stand up and see this, guys. Again, if I can bring you from landing here to here, we tend to A, fix the heel strike, or B, it's much less aggressive than it typically is. So I care much more about overstriding versus how's your foot contacting the ground mark. I care about how far out in front of your center of mass are you hitting, and we're gonna get into overstriding today. That's a really good question. You guys have any questions on that? Like, I care much more about where you're landing. Where my center of mass is here, I don't wanna be way out here. And we'll get into why that happens. Any other questions that you got, like burning questions that you guys have? Yeah. Oh, so like as you're running, as you're focusing on something? Yeah, it's a very delicate game of the cues we use with people. There's good cues and bad cues. Like when someone's I'm trying to work on overstriding, I'll say to someone, hey, I want you to imagine that you're on an ice rink. There's ice everywhere. If you take that massive step out here, you're gonna slip and fall. So I'll say, instead of don't overstride, I'll give someone, hey, just think that there's ice everywhere. And if you take that big step, you're gonna slip. And sometimes that cue works well. Other times I'm like, hey, that didn't do anything. Maybe let's imagine there's mud everywhere. I want you to run like there's mud everywhere. So certain cues work a lot better, but a lot of cues, people crash and burn. So they've done studies on that. Certain cues of like, if I said, Jay, don't overstride, he would probably crash and burn. That's a horrible cue to give somebody. So there's good cues and bad cues, but he's probably talking about like if you overthink it, you're gonna crash and burn. But that's a really good point. But we'll get into some of the cues and stuff. Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't want, like if you have a race tomorrow, Jay, and I'm like, hey, go do these things. It's just, don't do it. Like wait till you have some free time. And a lot of the stuff it's stuff you're doing before you run. The marching drills, like these drills we're gonna go over, these are done. Like these are before you run. Like you're trying to ingrain this motor pattern right before you run, so you don't have to think as much about it as you're running. Any other questions you guys have? Because that was a good one, Alejandro. The head position has a lot to do with your forward lean. So I had someone in my practice, like, was it last week? It was last week or 2 weeks ago, where his start position for the clean was like a really hingy deadlift, and he was looking like just straight down. I'm like, Darnell, pick your head up. And it just, boop, it just immediately fixed his form, because you want to pull from here and jump up, because if he's looking down, he just pulled his whole body down, picked his head up, it helped him get into a better position. So that head position doesn't always do that, but that head position can influence. If I'm looking straight up, I might be more tall, versus if I look kind of at that, I don't know, Jay, what do you use for when you're looking down? I like to think I'm kind of looking down like maybe if I'm way back here, like if I'm looking at like Ryan's like knee or his feet, like I'm looking down, but I'm not looking like far down.
So I try to think about my chin creating like a arrow out,
yeah.
level, but then with my eyes slightly down. So
Okay. Yeah, I like having a neutral head, but if you're at the end of the race and you're like, I'm sprinting, trying to catch this guy, if you have your head down, that could influence your forward lean, but I like having a more neutral kind of head. You can look down with your eyes, but I'm a bigger fan of having a neutral head. But I could see how that may maybe help you with a forward lean.
Well, the head down, so Jay's caught me 100 times, Ryan's caught me on the track. Head up.
Yeah.
Head up.
Yeah.
So
It tends to do this too. Head down, whoop, everything kind of follows it. So.
I still feel like I'm still standing up, but I'm just looking down. And so
Yeah.
Is that the breathing or?
That is, when your head goes down, you're going to shorten these tissues and elongate these ones. So, those are some breathing muscles. So it can influence other things. So I like to think like you have Kelly Starrett talks about this a lot, where you want to have everything as neutral as we can, and we're going to rotate and move, but this is kind of a kink in the system, and if we can open that up and get in a more neutral position, it's just, we're going to move more efficiently. But that's a good question. I didn't think about that as much.
Neck strength exercises with
Oh, how to like avoid this? That position. One of my,
to lay down and use some weights with your neck.
yeah, I love doing this one. You could just do this, but this is against no resistance. I love getting against the wall. You could do this on the ground too. I know wrestlers that do this. And then all I'm doing is I'm lifting my butt off and I'm bringing my chin, kind of making that double neck, that double chin. Control back. It can be a lot in the back of your head. But these muscles are working. Especially, you actually have a core of you have your core for your abdomen. You have a core in the front of your neck that is really important for helping prevent this and keep your head a little more neutral position. Yeah. Neutral neck, neutral head is good. I don't want any, because if you do this, it's very easy to then start doing this, and then it's easy to fall into that pattern. And I'm like, hey, we can avoid that, neutral head. You can look down with the eyes. Bigger fan of that. All right, I want to get into it. So we could do a couple different things to start. Let's go into, we'll go into cadence first. Everybody come on up. Feel free to shout out. What do you guys know about cadence? Like, is it important? What's the optimal cadence to hit?
175.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
I'm like 180.
180? Yeah, I think there's a Jack Daniels book that talks about 180. There's a few that that's like a sweet spot. It depends. I will say this, elite runners, their cadence tends to fluctuate less. Like for their easy paces versus their hard runs, they'll have less of I go from 165 to like 185 versus a less experienced runner, maybe it goes from like 150 to 180. So the more experienced you are, we tend to get less of that cadence fluctuation, but there is a sweet spot. So everybody take your shoes off. We're gonna go over this. Faster you run, your cadence will go higher, guys. So when someone says 180, I think that was Jack Daniels watching a bunch of Olympic runners, either at the trials or the Olympics, and he just said this was like the mean or the average. Like someone could have been at 200, and someone could have been at 170. So everybody start just jumping. Find like a pace. Got things bouncing around in my pockets. Find a pace that's like you could do this for a long time. I want to make sure everyone's doing it. All right, so it should feel pretty easy. You guys can do it for a while. I want you to purposely slow down on the bottom and then jump back to that same height. Which one is easier, which one's harder?
First one's easier.
Yeah, first one's easier, right? So you're not thinking about it. So what happens is when you guys can optimize your cadence, you find that proper cadence. When you hit the ground and you explode off at the right rate, at the optimal rate, it's like you're stretching your springs, your tendons, it's your muscles too, but it's your tendons. Think of them as they're thick steel springs. You want to pull on them, but they have a time limit. And as you run faster, that time limit, that you're going to hit the ground a little bit faster. As you go slower, it's probably going to be a little bit slower. There's an optimal time limit where you hit the ground, and then you want to contract. Essentially, you stretch it, and then you contract, and it pulls back, and it gives you a lot of energy, a lot of free energy. I think I said this before, but running, I weigh 150. It's 250% of your body, around 200 to 250, every single step you take. And we do that thousands and thousands of hundreds of times. So if your cadence is kind of out of whack and out of sync, we get a lot of free energy from our steel springs, our tendons, and our body and our nervous system. If that cadence is not optimized, you are putting a lot more work in. Again, barbell on my back, 225. You're doing all the work or more of the work versus your tendons and your muscles giving you that free energy. It's a rubber band, it's a steel spring. It has a time limit, but we can optimize that by optimizing our cadence. Do you guys have any questions on that? So cadence is huge, it's important. A couple ways to influence that. You can use a metronome, and we could talk about kind of optimal cadence for everybody. It's gonna be different for everybody here. As you strength train, give me 1 second, Mike. As you strength train, your tendons actually get thicker, they become thicker, stiffer steel springs, and you'll actually be able to handle a faster cadence. So that's the one big benefit of strength training is you can, like if you're doing calf raises, I think me and Brian were talking about this because like he has a little bit of calf weakness. If you, not just the calf getting stronger, but the benefit of that is this Achilles tendon gets thicker and stronger. It's gonna, A, you're gonna be able to produce more force and run faster, but B, you get that free energy from that tendon because it can spring back with more force, which is a really cool thing. All right, we're gonna do the heel strike test that no one's ever passed, and no one here will probably pass it. Oh, sorry, question, Mike? No, 100%. But I would take that study and be like, okay, well, if we know that we have this relationship between cadence is going up and injuries go down, like why is that happening? Boom, because your muscles are, like you don't have to actively put the force in, you just get that free energy. It is the muscles, but a lot of it comes from the tendons. It's a nervous system, just quick stretch, quick contract, quick stretch, quick contract. And if I'm sluggish, and if instead of being here, nice and fast and bouncy and springy, and I'm, well, you're working a heck of a lot harder, you load your joints and your muscles get a lot more stress and strain on. Well, not as, actually we'll probably have a little more strain, but more just, it's more stress and force on those joints. Or not force, but it's just your muscles have to work harder. Tendons, they're not doing their job as much. But yeah, that's a great point. That's a good study. Mike had a good point with overstriding. If we are overstriding, and instead of landing, let's say, you can't land directly under your body when you're running. It's, if you try and do that, you're just gonna fall over. It's not realistic. But when if you're overstriding a little bit, even a little bit or a lot of it, if you're landing way out here and I'm way out here and I'm way out here, well now my whole stride length is increased. Well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a slower cadence just because you're overstriding. And instead of, if you're here and I'm going to get this big push off versus I'm here and I get the push off, those are two completely different strides and step lengths. And one is going to have a faster cadence, one's going to have a slower cadence. So by default, if we improve overstriding, you're automatically going to have a faster cadence. So we might not even need to bring out the metronome. We just work on overstriding. That tends to fix the cadence issue. So I don't know if you guys have ever tried, I set the metronome, and then it's like, you set it to, let's say you're at 155 and you jump up to 160 and it's hard to hit it. You actually might have an overstriding issue that I'll record someone running in a little bit and we can talk about when to use the metronome and when to we need to retrain your gait. All right, let's do this. Everybody come on back up. Shoes off. No shoes allowed. And everybody start jumping again. And then land on your heel. Oh, pretty bad? And this is the thing, you can never heel strike. There's an efficient heel strike, but this is why I don't want people overstriding and smacking the heel down. So you get a very aggressive ground reaction force, a very aggressive spike on initial contact. Our bodies can handle force, guys. When we look at the ground, I don't have my computer pulled up. I can't pull it up. Actually, it's in the book. Someone toss me your book. Let me see what page it's on, because I want to show you. Go to page 22. It's on the bottom right. If you see, if someone has a book in front of you, you can check it out. There's two graphs there. I believe one is an aggressive heel strike and the other is like more midfoot, forefoot. That spike, that initial spike in the graph, this is more overstriding with the heel strike. It should be higher and more spiky. Our body can handle load, guys. There's a lot of force on our bodies when we run. We can handle that. The problem is when that force happens too fast, we call that loading rate. Like if you took like the area underneath the graph, if that graph is crazy high really quick, that's when we get a lot of tissue injuries because it's just you're loading your body and your tendons and it's just stressing your muscles way too quick, and that's where we get problems and it's hard to handle that load. So we can not necessarily even decrease the ground reaction force, we just want that slope to go up a little bit slower and a little more gradual versus that big spike. That's how we can help avoid injuries and just run more efficiently. There's a better graph farther on, but that's just a good visual to show you guys. You guys have any questions on that? So again, heel strike's not necessarily bad. A really aggressive one with overstriding, that happens, and then we get this excessive loading rate. Think of that as you're loading your tissues, but it's loading way, way too fast and way too quickly. We get problems. Yes, what's up?
You might have said this, but how do you decide where in that range is the sweet spot for cadence?
Good question. There's no perfect answer. There's a lot of factors. Are you strength training? How long are your legs? Because I have a short torso, long legs, so my cadence might be a little bit on the slower side compared to someone who has a long torso and short legs. It's more of when I'm working with someone and I'm like, hey, you're at 155. The minimum I'll at least want to see you at 160 for easy runs. And then as they improve their overstriding, we tend to see, oh, it just jumped up to 165. I'm like, great. And if it feels good, I'll just keep them there. And if they want to increase it, we can try that and fluctuate it. I see it a lot more from the, hey, I'm in pain, and we get them out of pain, that's great. I see a little bit less of, I want to hone in, and all I want to do is optimize cadence. I don't have the best answer for that, but all I know is we improve overstriding, your cadence will automatically go up. And then strength training, boom, it's probably going to help as well. It's going to help you handle those faster loads or faster cadences. If you guys want to increase it, you can increase it on your own. You don't want to make a massive jump. The most I'll do is a 5-step per minute jump. So if you're at 150, hey, we could try 155. I'll actually make sure you're not overstriding first so we can make that jump. When you know you've gone too far is it feels weird, it feels off. and it just feels inefficient, that's drop it right back down. Go. What's up, Jay? Yeah, you're like taking choppy steps down a hill or so. Like it's like what? Like sometimes that happens too. Or like there's something like going up and down hills will make it fluctuate. So I love trying to find, hey, if you can find you got to run and it's flat, you can get a pretty good estimate of what's my true cadence. All right, guys, throw your shoes back on. We're gonna head out. I'm gonna record someone running. So we can do this. Try and match it up. Oh, this might be right on. Right on, dude. Yeah, he's 167. Yeah, it's pretty good. Dun, 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 dun. Perfect. I just guessed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get lucky. Yeah, that's spot on. So that's a good cadence, 167. He's taller too, which is good. So first thing we'll look at, Brian, is where is your foot landing in relation to your center of mass, which is directly underneath your body. I'll show you what I kind of look for. We'll do this one first. So not bad. Yeah, not bad. I mean, just over 5. If I do that, it's not bad either. All right, so I like to see that 5 degrees or less, and you're like right on it.
Okay.
If you're on a treadmill, I could take a bunch of these. So guys, these angles, take them with like plus or minus 1 or 2 degrees, because as good of a job as I do, might be slightly off. So we put the fulcrum goes right on the, it's called the lateral condyle of the femur. I mean, essentially it's right in the middle of the knee joint. And then I go a perpendicular line with the ground, and then I just line that other line up, the other angle, or the vector, right with the lateral malleolus, which is your ankle bone. So we get that, we can get that angle of what we're actually looking for. So good thing is, Brian's pretty symmetrical. So other side was also around that 5 degrees. So I like that a lot. If there's a big difference, like one side you're overstriding and the other side you're not, that might be, hey, there's some hip stiffness. What we tend to find if someone's hips are tight, which if a lot of you guys have jobs where you sit down and the hips get stiff from sitting, we end up, our leg has a pendulum style of motion where you're gonna have some motion in the front and you're also gonna have some motion in the back. If you can't get the leg behind you, you still wanna have the same arc of motion, you'll just arc it forwards and you end up overstriding. So again, if I can't get extension, if I'm running and I get stuck like here, you'll end up compensatorily, you'll probably overstride on that same side. But I didn't even look at your extension yet. But right now, Brian, pretty good with striding out. I like it. Yep, hip flexor. Some of that rotation as well. Like you need the hip to extend and the pelvis to follow it. Those two things work together to get that really good, that push off and extension position. But yeah, a lot of hip flexors.
So the one.
All right, we're looking at hip extension. There, Brian, come on up here. You can watch me do this. So for extension, this is getting your leg behind you. Should change the color so it's not red. So you guys are like, this is good.
They'll still ask.
They'll still ask. So essentially, I'm lining it up with right in the side. Actually, move your hands like up a little bit. Yeah, it's right in the middle. Sometimes people's femurs are a little bit. They're not in the center with their shorts, but yours is right in the center. So this is good. 18, 17. I like that extension. I want to see, maybe just make sure that's full. That's pretty full extension. And if we take that with your forward lean, we still get. I wonder if you're
like a vertical lean than a forward lean.
You're actually, yeah, you're the biggest thing I'm actually seeing with you is you're a little bit more tall. You're running a little bit too tall. So I'm gonna pass this around the extension, which I like. Then I'm gonna show you guys with his forward lean into account. So it's 18. That's good. I like to see that at least at the minimum 10, but more I like 15 plus. That just means you're getting a good amount of push off, or you're propelling yourself forwards. I like that a lot. So pass that around. That's pretty decent hip. Did you find something? Sitting too far back. We do their marching drills and wall drills. So the marching drill is 3 progressions. Number 1, we're gonna stand here. Knees are gonna be slightly bent. Your core is slightly engaged. Arms relaxed by your side. You're gonna pull one ankle and heel underneath your butt. So hang out here. You're gonna hit the ground, pull back up. The ground, pull back up. Do 10 more. And try and relax your foot too. Good. And then pause at the top. Just go just a little bit farther back. Boom, right there. So guys, the point of these drills is it helps us get an efficient heel pull, which I didn't notice too many crazy things with your heel pull. But the goal is when we're pushing back, if we can pull that foot and that ankle, pull it in an efficient, just a line. Like I think if I'm here, I want to get it here as quick as I can. I don't want to go back and then hip flex through. I want to say hip flexors and hamstrings, let's work together to get that leg here. And it's easier to land with a vertical shin and not have to kick it out. If I keep this, if I do this thing where I'm here and then I pull and then I drive through, it's a heck of a lot easier to come down and land here. It's also a heck of a lot easier to do that when you keep the heel low and you just swing it through and you land in an overstrided position. Do the other side, face that way. Yep. If you can, be a little more bouncy. Kind of like bounce off the ground. Nice. You have a slightly more knee bend on that right side. There we go. Good. Or watch me for a second, Brian. So essentially, I'll start this way. Brian, you did a great job. I'll get here, boom, bend the knees, hold this position. Like a little bit of a kind of a step on the right side. But this is how I progress it. And then we actually start moving forwards, which is progression 2. So try being a little more springy, and then we can see if we can start moving forward. So think you're just here. And that looks good. And slowly start to move forwards. Yep, taking small steps. We're not taking these big steps out. We're not doing that sort of thing. Taking small steps because we're teaching, hey, let's land closer to our center of mass. Be springy, be quick off the ground. Same thing on the way back.
Other side?
Yeah, might as well. Yep. And notice how he's not doing this. I see this a lot. We're not sprinters. We don't need when sprinters do the wall drills, which we can do these, but there's not a lot of times unless it's the end of your 1,600 meter race or 800 meter race, we could do these. But if you're doing a marathon, there's not many times in a marathon your leg is all the way up in this position. I like to train it, hey, we know we're going to be here. Let's train to get to that position efficiently. So it's all motor control. This is teaching your brain and body how to efficiently pull the heel through and how to eventually hit the ground too. So you could do this, but it's just we have a lot more success with let's pull here, because if you pull this position, your knee is automatically in a really, really good position. You don't have to think, where does my knee need to be? Think, pull the heel under the butt. It's automatically going to be in a perfect position, or really close to a perfect position. Okay, everybody come on up. I feel we should go outside and do these. Again, we're not butt kicking. I'm not high kneeing. If you pull the heel under here, I like to hit a little bit behind myself, but you guys don't have to. This thing, hit the ground directly underneath your center of mass, right underneath your body. Give me 10 on one side and 10 on the other. If you've already done 10, just do 10 more. It's also Harvest sandals, though. That's better. Pause at the top one more time. Just go a little bit back. Boom. Pull right to there. I think try to use that hamstring. A little bit less. Yeah, that was better. That was better. That's much better. Here, guys. You guys do 10 more. I just want to make sure you're doing it right. That looks good. I like that. Good. Brian's doing a good job. Sweet. All right, now take a break. Did you switch yet? If you haven't switched yet, do the other side. Want to make sure it looks, huh? Just got to face the other way. Let's make sure it looks good. Yeah, you get bonus points for the sandals. And slightly less, a little more, yes, more pull the heel. Good. Yeah, it's tempting to want to do the full knee drive. All right, I'm okay with that. So now we're going to start moving forwards. So all it is get that start position, slightly bent, boom. Always pause. Never pause here, always pause at the top. And we're gonna start moving forwards, I'll tell you when to stop. So stop when you pass the handicap sign. Good. Really good. Nice, take a break right here. You do 3 more, if you didn't make it. So on the way back, I want you guys to be a little bit quicker and a little more explosive. So all that looks like, instead of being like this, switch sides obviously, but instead of being like this, sort of here and like, hit the ground a little more explosively, quick and fast. I actually feel my core has to engage when I hit the ground hard. Just try it. You start out easy and then try to get a little bit more explosive as you go forwards.
More flop on those. Come on, bro.
Think a little more farther through, Alejandro. A little more pull under. That better. There you go, Jude. That looks good. It's almost too fast. I'm just joking. All right, that looked pretty good. What we're gonna do on the third progression is we actually go into jumping right into running. So what this looks like, I'll just do it. Oh, I'll do it right here. When I say jump, you're gonna start jumping. I'll say pull. Add the pulls in. Again, I'm not high kneeing. I'm not butt kicking. You pull that to that position. And pause for a second, guys. As you run faster, you get a higher pull. Like if you watch the Olympic 100-meter sprinters, their heel kicks their butt every single time they run. If you're running a 15-minute mile, it's gonna be a much lower heel pull. So if we're doing these, and you just did these guys, and you were like, whew, it's probably not gonna be that high for an easy pace. So think kind of lower it a little bit. Start jumping. Add these guys in, and then lean forwards at the ankles and take right off into your run. Take a break. We're gonna do that a few more times. So it might feel a little bit weird in the beginning, but it's a great way to start your run and not take that big old step out in front. So start jumping, and heel pulls, and then slowly lean at the ankles, take off. Jude, less heel pull. There you go. You gotta settle into it. Yeah, when you're jumping, don't go way up, guys. Get it a little bit lower. Like did you feel it, Jude? It was way too high. Yeah, just if it feels awkward, lower it down. You look good. Lower yours for sure.
Yeah, I flip-flops.
You're giving me a curveball with the flip flops. We're gonna do it one more time. Down and back. What's that?
My feet aren't ready for pavement.
We're gonna do a long one this time. So I'm gonna say jump, heel pull, lean forwards, go all the way to that tree where you did for the warm up, and then I'm gonna have you guys do the same thing on the way back, but I'll run with you. So start jumping, and don't lean forwards till I tell you to. Heel pull, a little bit lower. There we go. And then lean forwards. Feel the sandals are throwing you off. And then I'm gonna run with you guys. We're gonna go all the way down. And just think about, hit that ground quick and pull off. All right, guys, come on over here. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna learn how to be comfortable in the forward fall that I think Brian would really benefit from. We're gonna find a spot. You can actually use these columns. But Brian, come on over here. We're gonna use this wall. So we don't need an aggressive lean, guys. It's just a little bit. So if I'm here, I want to be in a position where if you let go, you're gonna fall forwards. So it doesn't take much. I'm just slightly away from the wall. This is a good spot for me. I'm gonna pull one heel close to underneath my butt. I mean, we could be here, but I'd much rather we be here. We're gonna switch. These quick switches while you're in a forward lean position, that's how we can teach being comfortable in the forward lean. I also like to think too, I don't want to say squeeze your butt, you can think about that, but I want you to think the leg that's hitting the ground, I want you to feel your glute activating, because that's what's going to help hold you up. It's not the hamstrings, a little bit of hammies, but a lot more glutes is what's going to hold your torso up from, most time runners don't do this. I've seen a couple new runners where this doesn't activate and they hinge at the hips. Most of the time, if the glute doesn't work, you will lean back. That's not what we want. So give this a shot. You're probably going to be close to where I am, but you want to be far enough away from the wall to where that looks pretty good. Pull, and then switch, switch, make it quick, switch, switch, a little more knee drive on the right, a little more knee drive, there we go, better. Switch, switch, slightly more knee drive, there we go, much better. What I don't want to see is this, and you just kind of like slowly move your way up, but it looks really good. Oh, straighten your arms out all the way.
Yeah, I think I gotta.
Yeah, you got too close.
Yeah.
A little more knee drive. Yeah, better. Much better. I like that double bounce you get. Take a break. Now try this. We can work on these quick transitions. We're here. So I'm trying to pull. It's a double, so I'm pull, pull. It's a quick, 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 quick. I feel my glutes working and my core is engaged during that. Give that a shot, Brian. And then I'll have everybody give these a try. There you go. Just a little more knee drive, less butt kick. There we go. Better. Really good. Good correction. All right. Everybody who wants to do this, fine. You can find a column. You can find a wall. And just find that, and I'll give you some cues to start doing this. So here, think start in the pull position, and then if you're doing a butt kick, I will let you know. There we go. Alejandro, that looks good. Yep, I like it. And that looks good, Ryan. Think slightly less knee drive.
Okay.
More heel pull. That's better. That's much better. Quick transition to be quick. And there we go, Brian. Good correction. Yeah, a little more knee drive. Good. Good. Ryan, that looks good. Sandals are really loud.
Yeah.
Alejandro, that looks good. I like it. All right, take a break. Can you feel the butt?
Yeah.
All right.
Especially on this side, like.
Oh, on the right?
Getting tired.
Yes. So it's hard to give a cue for this. I can think like squeeze your butt, I guess, on the bottom one. But just think, hey, I want to feel my glutes engaging as I'm doing this. Like,
And your core, I feel my core a lot too.
yeah, if your core doesn't engage, you're going to feel your back. Like your core has to engage to, like, think of this as like the trunk of a tree, where if you get a really thick trunk, you can have really thick and powerful branches that can sway and you know, you can move them around. If this doesn't do its job, it's hard to produce force. And running, a lot of people don't think like, oh, I hit the ground soft. You hit the ground. I mean, it's not heavy, but you hit the ground. It's quick, it's explosive, and it's fast. So sprinters do this, and we should be doing it too. We just modify it and make it a little bit more distance running specific versus you're way out here and you're getting this massive knee drive. We don't have as much before we lean as sprinters do, and we're not hitting the ground as hard as they are. So we can modify it to really make it work for us. Okay, but anytime you see somebody fall at the finish line, they're actually trying to lean farther forwards than their muscles can handle. Like the farther forwards you fall, the harder you have to hit the ground to keep yourself upright. So if you want to run faster, you just fall forwards. But the pose method talks about that, and not dissing that, but pose method is you fall forwards and you catch yourself. Well, the farther forward you fall, you have to hit the ground harder. Like you can't have it both ways. So when someone falls at the finish line and they're trying to like stretch out, they're trying to lean forwards. They're trying to fall forwards faster than they can. They can't hit the ground hard enough to handle that fall forwards. But
Quads are being a beating.
yeah, like in your case, I know like quads are like that's been an issue. When it comes to, hey, when you're going downhill, what should you be leaning more forwards or backwards? Most people unless you're trying to ramp down the hill, you're probably going to go back a little bit. But it's also, hey, you're trying to accelerate or decelerate, and you're slowing yourself down. You're probably going to lean back a little bit because you're already like you're on that. Like when you're going up a hill, you're going to lean more forwards to help you go up the hill. So you're going to go back, but like sometimes people they bomb it down the hill, and it's not going to be as aggressive of a backwards fall. But yeah, uphill is definitely going to be. I mean, if you lean backwards going up a hill, you're gonna have a hard time. That's a really good question. So yeah, you're going to lean back slightly, even if it's versus flat ground versus going downhill. You're going to be a little bit more on the back end.
When I get tired, I start going the back seat.
You do this?
Yeah.
Or do you do this, or do you lean back?
Both.
Oh, both. Okay.
Yeah.
That I remember you guys know who Jada Cherry is? Running Rewired. He has a couple books on running that I'm a big fan of. And I took some courses from him, and he said Grant Fisher, who's going to run today, he would have an issue where at the end of races, he didn't have like the glute coordination and strength in the core. So he would do the same thing. He's sprinting for the finish line, and he starts leaning back. So essentially this can help with that, and then getting the glutes active and stronger will help with that as well. Help you power through that late phase of a race. Because it's super common. You just, I'm getting tired, I lean back. Glute's not doing its job, or you're not comfortable in that forward lean position. But yeah, that's a really good question. That happens to a lot of runners at the end of like a mile, a 15, even a marathon. What do you typically run?
5,000.
The 5,000, yeah. At the end of like you're trashed. It's easy. Any little thing, like any issue you guys have at the weak spot, it will come out when you're really exerting yourself at the end of a race. So knowing that, doing the wall drills and glute stuff that can really help solve that. But feeling the glutes during the wall drill is going to be important. So yeah, with you guys, that's going to be huge. It's a good question. Anything else? 'Cause I'm hungry for pizza. I mean, there's so much more we can go over, guys, but I feel like I've talked a lot, and hopefully you guys got a lot out of this one. There's other running form impairments. There's weaving, which is when you cross over. There's collapsing, which is the knee caves in and the hip. If I'm on this side, my hip will drop this way. I didn't see much of that with you, which is good, but you get that from the forward backwards view. But hands down, the number 1 and 2 thing we see is number 1 is overstriding and number 2 is cadence. So we fix those, that tends to fix many other issues. But overall, first thing, we always want to fix overstriding because that tends to fix cadence as well.
How about like a heel whip?
That's the lowest priority thing I ever look at. I will look at it sometimes, but the heel whip is a lot of times it's your big toe. You can't, that your big toe does not extend. So because you can't extend off and create a stable foot, your foot will either, sometimes it does, I'll show you from this end, it does this sort of thing, and you push off and it's here and it whips back. So if you guys can see the back, if you don't have the big toe extension, your foot will twist this way, and then it pushes, and then you twist back and your foot looks like this. Like you have that twisting. Sometimes it'll be like this where it just twists out and it gets stuck like that too. We can address it like getting a more mobile big toe. That tends to help. Sometimes it's from the hip, but that tends to, if that's the first thing we go to, we're just chasing the dragon and it doesn't really solve the issue. So we'll look at it, but if it's from the big toe, hey, I know we're gonna wanna work on some big toe extension and also some foot stability, because sometimes we lack some stability and then we try to push off and our foot doesn't know what it's doing, and we'll get a kind of a wonky looking heel whip. So I'll take that into account, but sometimes we're chasing the dragon with heel whips. So I'll note it, but if it's a very slight difference from side to side, I'm like, you're fine. Like, I don't want to worry about it at all. Cool. Any other questions?
Can you tell something about the arm swing? I heard you talking about the arm swing.
Yeah. What I don't want to see, guys, is like when there's rotation too. Like there's going to be rotation. This is an exaggeration, but with the arm swing, I want to see it. I want to see like your shoulder blade, like a shoulder blade motion. I want to see this. I don't want to see this. Like I don't want to see tipping of your shoulder. It's more of a forward, it's kind of like a rotation, like a door opening and closing, forwards and backwards. I don't want to see like this kind of style. That's just your shoulder tipping forwards. That's from a lot of pec tightness and stiffness. And you can't, like, that's why doing rows and like rowing exercises builds up some strength here, and it can help translate into, your hips follow your shoulders and your shoulders follow your hips. So if you're not getting this behind you and you're tipping it, that actually might throw up some hip extension too. So making sure we have a strong back and we can get that shoulder back and elbow back is huge. But yeah, I don't want to see like a wonky kind of like, anything I see like that arm doing this versus straight back, that's when I'm like, hey, this pec might be stiff. I want to cue someone to get that shoulder back, get the elbow back.
Pec has a good hack for making sure when you go this way, you should be able to, in your shadow, see the sun.
Oh, see the opening. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Kind of, yeah.
That's a really good one.
And like anytime you pass, a mirror, like you can check your posture.
Yeah,
You know, like,
you're not just checking yourself out. You can
Yeah.
check your posture, which is good. Yeah.
Because sometimes I think you can't feel when you're doing it.
Yep.
And you really have
You need
to.
to see it. Yeah, visual cues are huge, guys. Tactile cues I use a lot. Visual cues of like recording. Like when I record you, you're like, oh, this is how I look now. I didn't know that. Like then you're like, okay, cool. I want to change it. So yeah, visual cues, they can work great. And yeah, check yourself out in the mirror when you're running by people's cars and stuff. Totally fine. You're doing something that most people aren't doing, so go for it.